to set it up for the next session. Right after Dr. Arunima Sinha's motivation, I'm sure one thing that you would like to know more about is direct taxes. Huh? No? Okay. Well, she's motivated us enough. Let's face the complexities of direct taxes too. We've got two of the stalwarts of our profession who will help simplify the things. Ladies and gentlemen, to help us understand how we can enable growth through direct tax reforms, please welcome on stage CA R. Bhupati, respected past president, ICI. Shri Bhupati has served as a member of Education Committee of International Federation of Accountants. Thank you so much, sir, for your gracious presence. May I also call upon stage CA Girish Ahuja, sir. Many of us would have studied his books on direct taxes. He's a teacher, mentor to most, if not all of us. Thank you, sir. And of course, sir has also been nominated by the Government of India as a member of the task force for redrafting the Income Tax Act. So the topic is, how do we enable growth through direct tax reform? It's over to the speakers. Thank you.
Dr. Girish Ahuja ji, President, Vice President of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, past and present Central Council members, professional colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure and privilege to make a presentation on the topic enabling growth through direct tax reforms in this international conference. Thanks to the organizers for the invitation. Direct tax reforms is nothing new to us. It has got a very long history. We have so many committees constituted by the government, and to begin with, we had the Raja Chellaiah Committee report in 1993, followed by the Vijay Kelkar Committee report in 2002, the Parthasarathi Shom Committee report in 2016, and the current report of Sri Akhilesh Ranjan Committee report in August 2019, which is presented to the government, but it's not made public. We are not aware of the details of this report. I am glad that Sri Girish Ahuja ji, a member of that committee, is sharing the dais with us today. It is not appropriate to tell all those things recommended by the various committees in this forum. But if you read all these committee reports, there is one common thread in all these committee reports. The common thread, the recommendations made by all the committees are that as a country, we should use and leverage information technology to a great extent. This is a common thing in all the reports. And accordingly, technology has been used by the government and the Central Board of Direct Taxes, very effectively, I could say, to track high-value transactions, to monitor cash payments, to monitor tax payments, to expand the tax base, to file returns, and the latest one, which is in the process of being added, is the e-assessments. All these things have happened in our country. And added to this, the recent announcements, the recent amendments to the income tax law made by the finance minister, reducing the corporate rates. All these things have happened, and in this atmosphere, we have to review the economic situation of our country. And if you review the economic situation of our country for the preceding quarter, the quarter ended 30th September, you will find that the GDP is about 4.5%. Now, this 4.5% GDP is not giving that much of comfort to us and giving us a clear signal that we have to take some additional efforts in the form of reforms in direct taxes so that we could accelerate and reach the 5 trillion economy which we are dreaming of as early as possible. I would like to quote, there are two views which are quite prevalent here in the country, and I would like to quote both these things. I quote Mr. D.K. Joshi, Chief Economist of CRISIL. Somebody asked him a question, and it has come on the TV. What is his outlook of the economy? And he gave, in one sentence, the medium-term outlook of the economy is optimum. That means he is quite comfortable with it. He cannot make a statement like that, and he has to justify it. And he did justify his statement by giving a few points. He observed that the corporates are deleveraging their balance sheets. Yes, they are deleveraging their balance sheets. The reduction in corporate tax rates would trigger some growth. The consolidation of the GST and the Insolvency Banking Code, expansion of the tax base, all these things are good signals, and the medium-term outlook for the country is optimum. That is his view. While we have that view on one side, we have to take the other picture also. When we take the other picture, if you read the reports or the articles in the Financial Express as well as in the business magazines, we will find unemployment is a matter of concern. We must boost the manufacturing sector. Yesterday, Sri Manoharan ji mentioned that we lag behind because our manufacturing sector has not grown to the extent we expect it to grow. So we must give some emphasis for the manufacturing sector. Attract foreign investments. There are people outside India having money, and the rate of return there is not very attractive, and they're looking at opportunities in India to invest. So we must make the path easier for them to attract foreign direct investments in India. Improve the ease of doing business in India and reduce wealth disparity. These are the concerns which other group of economists are picturizing in our magazines as well as newspapers. So we have to take some additional steps. And before I venture to tell the direct tax reforms, 6 or 7 items which I have, I would like to put 2 caveats. Caveat number 1 is that the ideas which I am suggesting is in a crude form, is in a raw form. By the time it's implementation, it has to be refined and made practical. So the ideas which I have in mind, which I am sharing with you, are in a crude form. And second caveat I would like to say, not a caveat, a small point I would like to observe, is that we may have to reinvent the wheel. Some of the things which we were following in the past and we disregarded them because it was not good at that point of time, we may have to reintroduce. Again, borrowing from the words of Mr. Manoharan, he said, from left thumb impression, we went to signature. And again, from signature, we are coming to biometrics. So it is right that we have to relook what we have been doing in the past. And some of those things which are good enough, we may have to reintroduce. The first thing which to my mind, first suggestion which I have in mind is that the corporate sector has to be given a tremendous push to accelerate the reforms, and the manufacturing sector should be given the emphasis so that employment could be addressed. Just look at the corporate scenario today. We have an individual, a resident of India, having crores of rupees planning for investment in a corporate sector. He invests in the corporate sector. The corporate sector starts operating, makes profits. Today, in this competitive world, because of the competition, the operating margins of the corporate sector are very thin. In that thin margin, they are making some profits and they are paying taxes on the price. After payment of taxes, they declare dividend. They pay dividend distribution tax. This is second layer of tax. And the shareholder who receives the tax, it receives the dividend. And if he receives more than 10 lakhs of rupees, the shareholder pays tax at 10%. And after some time, if he is going to sell those shares, and if there is an appreciation in the value of shares, he has to pay capital gains tax on the shares. You see, for the investor, for the corporate sector, the tax rate has reduced, we agree. But for the investor, by the time he gets his ultimate return, the taxes are being collected at multi-levels. When at multi-levels taxes are collected, by the time he receives his revenue, it gets depleted. Therefore, the suggestion which I have, this suggestion is that the one layer of taxation can be do away with. That means the withdrawal of the dividend distribution tax. If the dividend distribution tax, to that extent, the available surplus with the corporate sector will go up. And if the available surplus goes up, they will think of new business opportunities. They will expand their business activities. And when they expand their business activities, what will happen? They will do it in the form of subsidiary companies. It is here I have the second suggestion. The second suggestion is, you remember, I see many seniors in this hall, you would remember the old Section 80M of the Income Tax Act, where intercorporate dividends were exempted. That's why I said, can we not think of reintroducing the intercorporate dividends so that it will give a push, a great push to the corporate sector to accelerate and create employment for the country as a whole. While withdrawing dividend distribution tax and incorporating the intercorporate dividend exemption, we must take care of the small taxpayers also. When I say small taxpayers, if they are getting a dividend of less than this amount, they should be exempted from tax. No. Added to this, for the existing structure, if the income of the resident individual crosses 2 crores or 5 crores, he has to pay additional surcharge. So this is the suggestion I would like to give, withdrawal of the dividend distribution tax. Suggestion number 1. Suggestion number 2 is that the partnership firms, which are not many in number today, but still, I read a recent, direction given by the Central Board of Direct Taxes, giving a direction to the Income Tax Department, check whether the partnership firms, when they are paying remuneration to their working partners and interest to partners, whether the remuneration is paid in accordance with the deed, clause in the deed. And if they are not paid in accordance with the clause in the deed, take action. Now just imagine the number of firms and who is to verify the clause in the deed and how they are going to implement this. To my mind, it's going to be a very difficult process. After all, whatever the firm pays to the partner, it is chargeable to tax in the hands of the partners. Why there is a need for putting a restriction on the amount of remuneration to be paid to the working partner? They could have had good reasons at that point of time when they introduced it. But today, with the need for accelerating the growth, and to simplify our tax laws, the ceiling on the remuneration to working partners could be done away with, and the tax rate for the partnership firms could be rationalized. The corporates pay tax at a lesser rate, but partnership firms pay tax after remuneration to partners at 30%. So the tax rates of the partnership firms could be rationalized. The third thing I would like to say, I would like to touch upon, I identified that foreign direct investment is very crucial. Today, if you ask a foreign corporate entity, are you comfortable in coming to India about the taxes? Says, whatever is the taxes, let it be there. But I want stability in the taxes. If the taxes are going to be changed so frequently, by the time I come and set up my company and start my manufacturing activities, if the tax rates are going to be altered, I am troubled. So I need stability in a tax laws. So in this case, I have two suggestions to propel the foreign direct investments in India. Suggestion number one, the computation of income of foreign corporates, the present way of computation is saddled with a lot of, at the same time, we have got certain receipts which are charged to tax at the flat rate. For example, fee for technical services is charged to tax at flat rate. Royalty is charged to tax at flat rate. So, at this time, I am helpless. I am not able to think ahead. But if we put our thinking caps and think aloud, can we identify more such revenue which could be taxed at the flat rate, doing away with the computation of income and finding out what is the expense relating to the income? You can take the gross receipts and charge it to tax at a flat rate. This is suggestion number one to attract foreign direct investment. Suggestion number two to attract foreign direct investment is, I do not know whether it's possible. As I told you, it's a crude idea. Is it possible for the government to stay for the foreign corporates? This will be the tax rates, and these tax rates will be stable for 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. If they give this stability in the tax rates, today's situation is the number of people from outside India to come and invest in India and to leverage on the potential in India will be far too many, and we could accelerate further. This is the suggestion to attract foreign direct investments. Now coming to the wealth disparity. Wealth disparity, it is for this purpose, to my knowledge, that the surcharge when it reaches 2 crores, the surcharge has been increased and the effective tax rate comes to 38% to 39%. And if your income in India exceeds 5 crores, your effective tax rate goes up to 42.7% because of the increase in surcharge. When we interact to such high-profile individuals working hard to earn this type of income, and we say this much of surcharge you have to pay, I notice that their morale, their interest, their enthusiasm, their excitement, their persevering qualities to earn income gets reduced. You are dampening their spirits. Therefore, this surcharge, additional surcharge which was introduced, is, to my mind, requires some rethinking, and it should be done away with. I know the government will have its own compulsions to raise revenues. Therefore, it is unwise on my part to only say withdraw the additional surcharge. We have to give some substitutes. Alternatively, I think it was there in the newspapers also, I remember to have read somewhere, withdraw the surcharge and think of, maybe it's not palatable to the audience as such, but I'm talking from the country's perspective. I'm not talking from a particular individual perspective. From the country perspective, I would like to say that this is a good case for reintroduction of wealth tax. When wealth tax was abolished, they did a pure cost-benefit analysis. What is the cost of recovery of wealth tax? What is the wealth tax collected? Cost was very high, and therefore they said, let us do away with the wealth tax. If you read the Vijay Kelkar's report, they have said like this: there is need to abolish wealth tax. We implemented it. Today, we have to rethink. Instead of this additional surcharge, why can't we revive the wealth tax? And when we revive wealth tax, we must be careful to say only unproductive assets should be charged to wealth tax, and the productive assets like shares in companies should not be subject to wealth tax. Therefore, the corporate entities, and we'll ask our individuals, our high net worth individuals, to invest in the corporate sector instead of investing in urban land or investing in gold and jewelry. So these are things which we have to take care of. Alternatively, people were thinking about, instead of wealth tax, whether the inheritance tax law. Go to UK. The inheritance law in UK is so very strict. very steep. Because of that, people hesitate to die there. So you will find inheritance tax law is very steep in those countries. I'm not suggesting it could be done. Between wealth tax and inheritance law, I would prefer wealth tax. Inheritance law is difficult to draft as well as to administer. Therefore, I would suggest, my view would be the reintroduction of wealth tax after doing away with additional surcharge. My view should not be taken as including surcharge, then wealth tax also. Not that way. Exclude surcharge and take wealth tax is a suggestion which I am giving. The penultimate one which I have is the simplification tax laws. With the permission of Mr. Girish Ahuja, long time back, in 1982, the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India organized a conference, an All India conference in Bangalore. And in that, the theme of that conference, I remember today, is simplification of tax laws. And who were present? Judges of the High Court, Supreme Court, tribunal members, the luminaries, advocates profession, the chartered accountants, named who is who in the country at that point of time. They were all present. And the theme was simplification of tax laws. The concluding session of the conference, we all passed a resolution, tax laws cannot be simplified. In the institute, we have formed so many committees to simplify sample laws. By the time we redrafted the law, it became more complex than the existing law. So that is the state of affairs. To simplify tax laws, to my mind, is a very difficult assignment, impossible assignment also, I will say. But we could reduce the rigors of taxation. I did an effort after accepting to speak here. I wanted to find out of the total returns filed in India, how many returns people are claiming exemptions for the various incentives given under the income tax law. ATIA, ATIA-B, ATIA, so many sections are there. How many people are claiming exemptions? I just wanted to find out of curiosity. I did a Google search. I couldn't get the answer. I couldn't get the answer as to how many people have claimed it. Therefore, my guess is the number of people claiming their incentives under these sections are not too many. If that is the case, see the number of pages in Income Tax Act because of these sections. See the number of pages in the income tax return because of this. So the suggestion, brainstorming, out-of-the-box thinking is that why can't we, and not only that, when people come and make an assessment on these, their business knowledge of these type of activities is rather very restricted. Without understanding the business knowledge, they try to make a computation and assessment. Sometimes it leads to complex affairs. And these people have to draft the order very carefully. If they don't draft the order carefully, it leads to litigation. Many years ago, senior professionals have told me, we are not winning cases in appeals and tribunals because of our expertise. Because the orders are not drafted properly, we are able to win. So they require lot of legal expertise to draft it. So my suggestion is, why don't we hive off all these exemptions and put it under a specific department of the government so that they have the business knowledge and they could give suitable incentives for those type of industries. And the number of cases in our income tax tribunal will get reduced drastically, to my mind. This is about the simplification tax laws. And the last one is business disruptions. Previously, if I start an industry, the people who invest in the industry will ask me the question, what is the gestation period of this industry? Within how many years the company will turn around and start making profits? What's the gestation period? Today, if people are investing in companies, you know what they ask me? They don't ask me gestation period. They ask me, what is your sustenance period? How long the company will survive? The reason is, technology is galloping. I find the income tax department is giving certificates for those high net wealth individuals bronze certificate, silver certificate, gold certificate, platinum certificate. They file the returns in time, they pay taxes, they are acknowledged as high taxpayers of our country. 3 years down the line, 5 years down the line, because of technology disruption, their business goes into a spin. They are not able to revive. They are not able to pay taxes. And the company folds and action is taken against them. Once a high net worth, high taxpayer is now de-recognized, it's not because of their fault. There's no misappropriation. There is no mismanagement. There is no way of, wrongdoing of the business community. But still, the technology made the business redundant. Because of the redundancy of the business, they are not able to survive. So the old idea, Mr. Girish Ahuja ji will know, and many other seniors will know, we have been canvassing this for a long time. Instead of carry forward of losses, they carry backward of losses. At one point of time, I contributed to the country. Now I am in difficulty. Should I not be recognized? This is the question which I would like to lay before this audience. It's very difficult. I know administratively it's difficult to administer carry backward of losses. If it requires a reassessment of the earlier year, it definitely creates pain. But suggestion is to do whatever taxes people have paid during the last 3 to 4 years, if they have paid high taxes, work out a mechanism. And now that corporate is in difficulty, that businessman is in difficulty. Should he not handhold him? After all, he has contributed for the growth of our country. And now he is in difficulty. We should handhold him. And whatever taxes is paid, the average of this should be given to him as some sort of a compensation. The last is about the e-assessment. I have nothing to say, but only a word of caution is that it should be introduced in stages. I was watching the webinar of the ICAI along with the department officials. They seem to be very confident, and they are saying that we have everything in place for the assessment, e-assessment too. I have my own thinking, but the way they explained to us on the webinar was quite convincing. Hopefully, everything will fall in place. And e-assessment as a process, we could accept it. But we should be very careful in the introduction, and a lot of training would be required, not only from our side, from the profession side, we have to gear up for e-assessment. From the department angle, they have to train their officers to look into e-assessment, to receive an online record and to infer out of it. That is going to be a big thing. And this question was put to the members of the Income Tax Department. They made an observation that good training is being done in the progress for all the senior officers who are in charge of e-assessment. If all those things are fine. If you look into all the suggestions which I have given, I have not gone this side or this side. I'd like to take a middle path. I have not asked elimination of tax. I have just asked for withdrawal one level of tax. I asked for stability in foreign tax, taxation of foreign income, reintroduction of wealth tax, and then incentives to be moved out of income tax. For business disruptions, compensate the businessman when he is in difficulty, and the caution against e-assessment. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for the patient listening.
Thank you very much, CA Bhupati sir. May I now request CA Girish Ahuja sir.
What is the time like?
Sir, we've got about 25 minutes.
Huh?
25 minutes.
I've just given 25 minutes, I don't know. Can you hear me? Is it okay? Yeah. Well, friends, the chairman has made my work simple. You know, he has raised many issues and has given many suggestions also, the tax. But let me explain to him one thing. All those suggestions have already been incorporated in our new Income Tax Act, I tell you. Probably it might have been leaked, I don't know. Because I was supposed not to talk about all these things, but he knows everything about the Income Tax Act, which I have handed over to the department, you know. Or rather to the finance minister, I'm telling you. One thing he mentioned about dividend distribution tax. He said you have to pay tax at the rate of 20%, then the person who receives the money, if its income exceeds 10 lakh, he also has to pay 10%, 115 BBDA. So there is a double tax in the case of company as well as there is a shareholder. The major demand was not the dividend distribution tax should be, not levied on the company. The major demand was from foreign companies, from persons who were investing in India. They say the dividend is paid by the company, or the dividend distribution tax. And they don't get credit in the foreign country because they have not paid tax in India. The purpose, what they were saying is, please shift the burden of this dividend back to the old system in the hands of the recipient. Once it is shifted in the hands of the recipient, obviously the companies, the foreign companies who are investing here or the FPIs all will have to pay tax in this country, and they will get the relief of that tax, double taxation avoidance tax in that country. That was the major demand which was coming. At the same time, he has also raised one point as regards small investors. They are maybe in the bracket of 5%, they are maybe in the bracket of 20%, many are not in the bracket of 30%. So they were paying the tax at the rate of 20%. Now, if the dividend is shifted back to this recipient, obviously, those who are in the bracket of 5% will pay tax at the rate of 5%. Those who are in the bracket of 20 will pay at 20, and the balance, of course, 30. Sir, we have done the same thing. It has been shifted to the recipient. Now, no dividend tax has to be paid by the company if they agree, I say. Recipient will pay tax. Foreign investors will get the relief to the extent of the tax paid in this country, and the Indian also will pay tax in this way. That has already been done, but regarding partnership firms, they are not on level playing field. Absolutely not on level playing field. They pay tax only at the rate of 30%, and after paying at 30%, they can take away the money wherever they like. The companies pay tax a more rate. So that is the difficulty. We cannot change that system. As regards your suggestion that the salary there should not be limit on salary. Let me tell you, if there is no limit on salary, small partnership firm will not pay even 1 rupee tax on that. I take a case of 2 crore turnover of a small firm. He shows 8% as under 4480, 16 lakh. The 16 lakh is distributed to the partners. Each partner gets 8 lakh. Let's say there are 2 partners. I don't take more than 2 partners. 2 partners, 2 lakh. Now this 8 lakh can be brought down to 5 lakh. You know that. How can it be brought down to 5 lakh? So neither the firm will pay tax nor the individuals will pay tax. How can you break down to 5 lakh to 8 lakh to 5 lakh? You know 80C, 1,50,000. You know 50,000 as the limits of the very other limits I'm telling you. So it is not possible. It is not possible to allow firms to pay any amount of salary. If it is done, no tax will be collected from small trade. Again, and secondly, even if it is 30%, the individual who are above the bracket of 30%, of course, will pay tax at the same rate. So I don't think there is any point in bringing that. We considered that point also. Ultimately, we decided, let the system continue, and it is not possible, not at all possible to reduce the rate from 30% unless the rates for every SSC is changed. That's why it was not there. So we thought of that thing, but partnership are not on the same level playing field, so we cannot think of this also. I was supposed to do many other things. Let me tell you before I take up other issues. One thing is sure, everyone in this country will have to change mindset. People feel that they have no responsibility of paying tax. Well, that cannot be done now. The tax practitioners are coming out with various types of planning. That cannot be done now. Please, God's sake, avoid giving any type of planning to them. This is not done. If you go for planning, that's why there is a change in the law. Then they had provided that. Then they had provided further that. Then they had provided also that. You know that, what is it? How is this Income Tax Act these days? Section, thereafter subsection, thereafter clause, thereafter sub-clause. And thereafter, nobody has read. Thereafter, there is item. And after the item, there is sub-item. Then there is provided that, provided further that, provided also that, and any other proviso provided also that, provided also that. 19 proviso in section 10, clause 23C. Starting with provided that, next is provided further that, and then you keep on adding provided also that, provided also that, provided also that. Still not complete. Still not complete. Explanation number 1. Explanation number 2. Explanation number 3. So many explanations, sir. And after this, we are looking for a full stop. The comma is after 6 lines. This is our law. This is our law. What can I do then? Sanjeev had been my student, right from the college. You are a Central Council member. One day I told him, you should read Income Tax Act. Sir, nahi samajh mein aata. I said, you should read one section every day. He said, if you say, I'll read that. So he started reading the act. He started reading the Income Tax Act. After 3 hours, I get a call. Sir, it has taken me 3 hours to read one section. I said, don't worry, at least you know one section. He said, sir, wait a minute. The last line was, it is not applicable from assessment year 2010-11. Sir, we don't know whether that section is applicable or not applicable. We still don't know anything about that section. There are so many sections. I told him, next time you read the law, first see the last line. Whether it is applicable or not applicable. Are you getting my point? Don't worry. 550 sections have been brought down to 270 sections in our new law. 1100 pages brought down to 525 pages in the new law. No proviso, no explanation, absolutely nothing, but only for a short period of time. You know that. What will happen? You will again put us into difficulty and change the law. Just see the fate of 115 BAB brought. Sir, Veji is sitting here, and he is an expert in that also. ज्यादा एक्सपर्ट में ही प्रॉब्लम होती है सर ये भी एक्सपर्ट है मैं भी एक्सपर्ट हूँ मुझे भी कह देते हैं एक्सपर्ट है वेद जी भी एक्सपर्ट है 150 BAB was brought through the ordinance. First thing was brought because we recommended the tax on companies should not be more than 25%. And they brought it down. I'll explain that point also. Now, funded BAB was brought on 20th September 2019. The new bill has been presented and is already passed by the parliament. You know that taxation amendment bill, whatever, 2019. Section 150 BAB was brought. And within 2 months, 3 times, 4 provisions have been inserted. Just in 2 or 3 months' time, 4 provisos have been inserted there. Because the rate of tax was 15%. If you are a, what do you call, manufacturing company or producing an article or a thing, rate is 15%. Then they thought, if it is everywhere it is 15%, what will happen to other incomes which are earned in that company? Obviously, it's not only manufacturing or production income, you may be having other income. They bought a proviso for other income. Then they thought, what will happen if there is a close connection between the company and they make arrangement in such manner, they shift the profit to a 15% company, what will happen to them? They brought another proviso to that. Then they thought, what happened? If it is a short-term capital gain on a depreciable asset, on non-depreciable asset, if there is a short-term capital gain, will you pay 15%? Again, they thought another proviso to be added. 4 proviso inserted. Now the tax rate is not 15%. It is only for manufacturing or production of an article or a thing or any incidental activity to that. The rate is 15%. Rate is 15. I agree. But if there is any other income which is not taxable at 15% or at a special rate, the rate is 22%. But the last line is no deduction, no expense, no allowance will be allowed from such income. Think of a case, a manufacturing organization has given a small piece, a small portion of building on rent. You know that when you get rent, you get 30% deduction. You will not get deduction. It will be taxable at 22%. Already today it is taxable at 21%. How do you say? 30%, 70% deduction, 21, not 22%. Now if there is a short-term capital gain from land, which is non-depreciable, what will happen? The tax will be 22%. If there is a close connection and you earn income due to that, the tax rate will be 30%. Now there are 5 rates for 15% company. 115 by AB, one rate is 15%, another is 22%, third is the special rate, which may be 15%, 10%, 20%. Then there is a rate for short-term capital asset, which is, I say, 22%, and no MAT. So my point is, you bring a law, and in such a short period of time, if you have to change that law, what is there is the mindset of the people. Think of a case when what we call gift tax was abolished from this country way back on 1/10/98 with a good purpose. No tax. Once you have paid tax, why should you pay tax another when you gift money to this? Nothing happened. But in few years' time, Section 56(2)(5) came, then 56(6) came, 7A came, now it is 56(2)(10). What was the reason? The reason was people started making gift. Nobody gives a gift to anybody in this country, but everybody receives the gift. In this country, gifts are not given, gifts are taken. Who suggested them? I never suggested them. You suggested. I don't think you will suggest that. But everyone is taking gift in this country. So they had to brought that individual HOF, you cannot take a gift more than 25,000 per person. If you remember earlier, per person, not more than 25,000 law was brought. Because they thought everything is going to change. Then people starting taking gift. Please don't give me more than 25,000. I will take only 25,000. Maybe I take from 100% allowed to me because it was not an aggregate problem. Then they shifted that it will be 50,000 in aggregate. No more than 50. Everybody said, don't give me gift in cash or check. Give me anything in kind. I'll accept it, jewelry or any shares or anything of yours. Give me in kind. I'll accept it. Again, the law was changed. Neither the money more than 50,000, nor the movable property more than 50,000, nor the immovable property more than 50,000. If you give, you'll get it. It's okay. Now what is to be done? Don't worry. The case is only for individual and HUF. You make a trust and make money in the name of the trust. There is a problem with that and become the beneficiary of the trust. And people started taking the gift in this manner. Who suggested them? I never suggested them. I never suggested them, sir. And now Section 56, subsection 210 has come. Any person who receives any amount exceeding 50,000 or that, still there is a scope for that. Ask me later what is that scope. I'll not tell you at this moment. What can I do? People started with the good intentions of having colleges and universities in India. You know, you get a donation. At that time, there was no anonymous donation case. So all that black money was taken into the trusts. Colleges started opening. You know, the schools, colleges, medical institutions. They were getting their own money invested in that trust, thinking that nothing will happen. Because that time, there was no question of anonymous donation. Any amount you receive was, if taken as an irrevocable trust, was fully exempt. So people started doing this thing. Then a question of anonymous donation came. Now, if it is an anonymous donation exceeding 5% of the total income or total donation, or rupees 1 lakh, which is more, it will be taxable 30%. No school, no college has opened thereafter. No school, no college, no medical institution has come after that date. Take a case of a corpus donation. I was allowed to donate to another terrible trust, and it was allowed as deduction. Now what I did, I gave a donation to another trust for its corpus. Once the donation is given for a specific direction, that it will form part of the corpus, it is not taxable in that sense. It was not taxable. They had surplus money, they gave a gift to another person for corpus. Third trust had a surplus money, they give to another person to the corpus. And that money came back to this person. The law had to be changed, provided that if you make a gift for corpus donation, it will not be treated as application of income. The law had changed only because of planning. It is also planning. Should you call it as planning? Or should you call it as evasion? Or avoidance? I will call it as avoidance. Think of anything you have in mind. Everywhere the planning has been done. And think of the department also. They're only concerned with target. We are not able to achieve our target. And they are finding out loopholes. And let me tell you, sir, whatever benefit is given to us, they are later on withdrawn. Because they are also not sure how this thing will work out to be. The benefit of this, he's talking about that surcharge. Let me explain you again, give you back the history of that surcharge. The bill was coming, bill was coming last year. They said, the target we are not able to complete. We are giving so many things, deductions in it. We are not able to, we would like to increase the rate. We suggested them, sir, for so many years, from 97.5% and the wealth tax of 6%, you have brought down the rate to maximum marginal rate is 30% today. Please don't increase the maximum marginal rate. But some other, they think how to do that. We have to increase our target. Government has to spend money. Government has ambitious disbursements also. So what should we do? Ultimately, we suggested that above 1 crore, if you want to say about 2 crore, raise the maximum margin rate to 33%. You'll get 10% more, make it to 33%. Ultimately, they decided, no, we will do it for up 2 to 5 crore, 33%, and 5 and above crore, 36%. This was they decided. And bill was under print. And telephone rings up, and they're told, wait, don't do this. Because 33 and 36, somebody told them, what are you doing? If you increase the rate from 30 to 33 or 30 to 36, the extra revenue which you get, 2/3 will go to the state governments. And you will get only 1/3. Are you getting my point? This 33 rate of surcharge, the whatever tax you collect, 2/3 goes to the state government, 1/3 goes to the central government. He said, wait, please make it to surcharge. If you make it surcharge, the entire revenue will go to state, central government, central. अब देखिए, एक गवर्नमेंट ने दूसरी गवर्नमेंट के साथ चीट किया कि नहीं किया? Because if you had raised the limit, then 2/3 would have gone to the state government. The planning is done by the central government also. They have raised it as surcharge. Without realizing that, last minute we make a call that we have a system of having a same progressive rate in case of individual, HUF, AOP, BOI, and artificial judicial person. There is a same rate. That is that same rate is applicable to them. Individual, HUF, AOP, BOI, and artificial judicial. They were supposed to increase for individual and HUF, and not for trust, AOP, BOI, or artificial judicial. But in hurried manner, they did it in the same manner that for all them, it will increase to, surcharge will increase to 25%, and there is 37% also, as he pointed out. So what happened? Hue and cry. The FPIs, the foreign institutional investors who are coming to India, they are not all companies. There are many are trusts. Since they are AOP, BOI, although the tax is long-term capital gain or a short-term capital gain, but surcharge will be 37% in their case. Because tax is 10% maybe on long-term capital gain, short-term capital gain may be 15%, but surcharge will be 37% of 15% or 37% of 10%. So now somebody says in the parliament, let them convert into company. This is not the answer to give that let the trust convert into a company. They had trust. So suddenly then you have changed this, brought down that surcharge for those from 37% back to 15% only in case of capital gain. Capital gain for shares and that, it has been brought down to. But what is the need of doing it? I'm telling you, first they have reduced the rate of tax for companies. Okay. At one time you are reducing. You had already promised it. 99.3% companies were already paying tax at 25%. Let me tell you, 99.3%. They are paying at 25%, not at 30%. Only 0.7% companies were paying tax at the rate of 30% and getting the MAT credit also, if at all it is there. And this also getting the MAT credit. Agreed? I told them, this is the thing. You have to bring down 0.7% companies, but the loss was 80,000 crore by bringing down tax from 30% to 25% in case of only 0.7% company. Only 0.7% company. So from there, they have brought down to 22, I agree. It is not 22, it is 25. Why do you say 22? 10% surcharge is mandatory now. It is mandatory. Why do you get 22%? It is 25.168%. No, but you have withdrawn the, what you call, MAT credit for them. If they opt for 115 BAA, they will not be allowed any MAT. If they continue to remain in that 30%, then only they will be allowed to create the MAT credit. So now every company is trying to match out whether we should continue on 30% or should we go to 22%. They're all making out the problem because you have to deposit advance tax on 15 December. So why give them this type of a charge? Why couldn't you continue with the MAT also for 15% credit should be given? Why afterthought? I remember Mr. Vejan had some pamphlet. You sent to me also the details that MAT should be allowed. And it is allowable because nothing is mentioned. Taking clue from him, they say it is not allowed now. Because you mentioned that nothing is mentioned, that's why it will be allowable. They said, let me mention that it is not allowable now. This is happening, sir. I can't help it. The department also has to change their mindset, you know. We also have to change our mindset. Because the other day, I should not say, the other day, I was sitting in my office, 3 chartered accountant friends came. क्या हुआ? Sir, we are very happy. क्या हुआ? 15% tax हो गया. तो बहुत अच्छी बात है. Sir, हमारा business बढ़ गया. मैंने कैसे business बढ़ गया आपका? Tell me what is that? Sir, ऐसा है. आप क्या करेंगे? पुरानी मशीनरी को रंग कर नया बिल ले लेंगे और 15% टैक्स लगेगा उन कंपनियों को. अगर ये माइंडसेट हमारा हुआ तो क्या होगा कंट्री का? आप नई पुरानी मशीनों का रंग करके, मैंने कहा वो ई-वे बिल होता है, वो भी तो होगा एक प्रॉब्लम जीएसटी. कहते ई-वे क्या होता है? ट्रांसपोर्ट के लिए तो ऑल वे है, उनके लिए ई-वे कुछ है ही नहीं. You can be transported to any other place. So the point is, please, we'll have to change our mindset. हमें क्लाइंट्स को बताना है, pay taxes, enjoy life. Don't think that now you can think of doing any kind of evasion or avoidance. 360-degree profile has been made for each and every assessee. I have no time, otherwise I would have told you. He said the information is not there. Who has taken exemption and what is the amount of exemption? Sir, we have a tax planning and research unit, TPRU. They provide you all information. What kind of deductions have been taken? What kind of a loss will be there? There is a complete detail. They have a complete detail. They told me, many things they asked me, I gave them, the answer was. He said, we can tell you how much amount you have deposited in your bank account during demonetization. I said, how do you know? He said, give me your account number, PAN number. I gave the PAN number to him. He said, you have deposited 240,000 rupees. I said, less than 250, my dear. How does it matter? He said, but I'm not telling you, but I have complete detail. I said, you are wrong. I have not deposited in my own account. I deposited that money in my wife's account. He said, were you a joint holder of that? I said, yes. That's why information is there with them. They have a complete information how much money you have deposited during demonetization days. People think demonetization is a failure. Sir, this is only the first year assessment is going on. There are still 6 more years, 147. They will reopen the case. ये मोदी जी का जमाना है, ये मैं बता दूं. Information is there. Demonetization is not a failure. The demonetization was not implemented properly. It was not implemented properly. Had it been implemented properly, they took hasty step to do it. The same happened with IDS. Same happened with many other reforms. But if the reforms are coming up, we have to be honest. Whether I'm a taxpayer or a tax practitioner or a tax gatherer or tax administrator, we'll have to be honest to this. E-assessment we have suggested should be brought at stages, not in one go, but they have brought it in one go for a different reason. We have already suggested tax rate to be rationalized for individual HUF, that progressive rate. The point is this: very interesting situation. You have income 1 crore, let's say, or the surcharge is 15%. Even in the case of a company, the surcharge is 7% if you are above 1 crore, and surcharge is 12% if you are above 10 crore. Existing system, I'm not talking about the new one. Now what happens? My income is 1 crore. No surcharge. I pay 30% in company. My income is 1 crore, 1 lakh. The entire 1 lakh goes to the government. Why? 30% and balance surcharge. Nothing is left to me. My income is 1 crore, 2 lakh. The margin relief may be there. I don't have to pay. But that 2 lakh which I have earned extra, the entire amount goes to the government. What is this rule? What kind of a rule is this? That you want me to restrict my income to only 1 crore or more than 1 crore, 10 lakhs, so that in between margin relief, if I don't get a single penny. I said, this is the useless law you have made. You can say that if you increase is more than 1 crore, you will have to pay this much amount and 30% or 40% will be left with you. The margin relief slab may go up, but let me tell you, see what happens. Your income is more than 5 lakh. Somebody asked me, sir, if it is income, his individual income is 5 lakh, I don't have to pay any tax. If it is 5 lakh, 10,000, I have to pay tax. 12,500 plus 2,000, 14,500, 510. Why should I do so? I suggested him. I said, why do you want to do it? Give a donation of 10,000 to the Prime Minister Relief Fund. You don't have to pay any amount of tax in that. But the idea is, I told them, please don't do this. Whenever there is an increase, instead of a margin relief, tell them that if it is going to be at this amount, let's say it is 10,000 more, we'll charge 30% and balance 70,000 with you. If it is another 30,000, we'll charge 30%. The balance will be there. I have given a suggestion which they have accepted it. Let me tell you, nobody will stop at 5 lakh, nobody will stop at 1 crore, nobody will stop at 10 crore, whatever is this, because this margin relief is putting us through a lot of difficulty. The margin relief really putting in my difficulty. I'll say only last minute, because otherwise he will come that you were given only 25 minutes. Sir. Surcharge. Sir, my point is, I've already told you, surcharge is only basically a mindset. Otherwise, at one time, sir, surcharge only was for some emergencies, you know. You have some earthquake, this or this, some emergency, but it is a permanent feature. The permanent feature is only due to one thing, because 100% goes to the central government. Otherwise, it cannot be a permanent feature. Here also, 22% plus 10% surcharge. So that surcharge goes to the central. So the mindset of everyone has to change. First, do introspection. पहले अपनी introspection कीजिए, मैं क्या करता हूँ. Don't say anybody anything. What we are doing, what I am doing as taxpayer, what we are doing as tax practitioner, are we suggesting a right thing to them? वो मैडम बोल गई, जब भी हमें डिफिकल्टी है, आपके पास आ जाते हैं, आप सुधार देते हो. बोल गई ना, बोल गई. सुधारने का मतलब अच्छा वाला था कि उसका मीनिंग क्या था? हर आदमी यही बोलता है कि सीए कर देता है. The CA, we go to the CA and he manages the thing. What do you mean by managing the thing? He suggests is a different thing. He manages the thing for us. हमें बदनाम कर दिया. हम नहीं करते कुछ. वो करके हमारे पास आते हैं. जो करके हमारे पास आते हैं. So we are helpless. Tell them with folded hands, kindly pay taxes. I am telling you with your folded hand, kindly do not follow the law. Please tell them to pay taxes. The amount is not much. Let them pay taxes. No gift tax, no wealth tax, no inheritance tax. We have not given anything of wealth tax to be reintroduced. We have not talked about inheritance tax to be introduced. Why should there be a tax when they have already increased the surcharge on that? There will not be any wealth tax. There will not be any inheritance tax suggested by us. But yes, mindset will have to be changed. Folded hand, अपने आप को बदल लीजिए. मैंने तो बदल लिया. मैं 100 चूहे खा के हज को जा चुका हूं. मैंने अपने लिए बोला है. मैं 100 खा के हज को जा चुका हूं. आपने 98 खाए तो 2 और खा लेना. उसके बाद मत खाना. I am with folded hand. Please tell your clients to pay tax. We are the person who have increased the tax to this level lakh crore. We suggested them. It is better to pay tax and enjoy life. But at the same time, we are also planning for them. Planning is okay. Avoidance is bad. And tell them nothing will happen in future. Please pay taxes. Enjoy life. And this is only the mantra I am telling you. मैंने उनको भी देखा. I have seen the facts and figures. अब कोई exemption, कोई deduction नहीं होने वाली. तभी तो MAT चला गया. Where is the maximum exemption or reduction or anything? That's why the MAT is not there. Law will become very simple. अभी MAT हटाया है. They have not removed AMT. That AMT will be removed. The day ATIA, ATIB, ATIC and deductions go, the AMT will also go. I'm assuring you AMT will also be there. There will always simple tax you have to pay, and tell your clients they will get the benefit of slab increase also. But no alternative except to pay taxes. Thank you very much, please. Thank you.
Thank you very much, both our speaker, CA R. Bhupati ji, CA Dr. Girish Ahuja ji, for simplifying the complexities of direct taxes. Sir, with your permission, can I share a joke on direct taxes? One joke on direct taxes. Can I share a joke on direct taxes, please? Can I share? So once there was an innocent child, a 10-year-old child, very innocent. His father was a chartered accountant. He went up to his father and said, "Father, can I go to play cricket?" And the CA father said, "Yes, my child, you can go to play cricket, provided you come back by 7 p.m. or after playing 2 matches, whichever is earlier." I hope direct taxes has been simplified through this session. I invite respected Central Council member CA Anuj Goyal ji to please come on stage and felicitate CA R. Bhupati ji. We express our gratitude, sir. Thank you for sharing your wisdom. Thank you, Anuj sir, for doing the honors. I invite respected Central Council member ICI, CA Dheeraj Khandelwal ji, to please come on stage and express gratitude towards CA Dr. Girish Ahuja sir. Thank you very much, Girish sir, for enlightening us on direct taxes. Thank you very much. With that, we conclude this session on direct taxes, and straight away we are going to move to the next session. Just give us a minute so that we can get the stage set. Meanwhile, an exciting offer awaits you. Are you willing to go to Kerala on a holiday? Do you want to go to Goa, Shimla? When it comes to chartered accountancy, it's Credible India. But when it comes to India being a tourist destination, it's Incredible India. If you are planning to go to a holiday and you would like to go free, here is an offer. Right outside, one of our sponsors has got a stall, and they're willing to make that offer to the members of the CA fraternity. Club Mahindra Holidays.